86% of the results from the COVID PCR tests were wrong. 86% of the results from what the people were told was the gold standard for testing for COVID infection were wrong. 86% of the results from the little bits of plastic that determined whether a person could go to work, travel to see a dying loved one, visit children, keep a small business afloat, function in the world were wrong. 86% of the results from the PCR tests that were empowered to rule our lives, that ruined lives, that wrecked national economies worldwide, that wrecked families and communities were wrong. 86% of the results from the PCR tests that were used to wildly exaggerate the number of so-called COVID cases and deaths, and so terrify the millions into submitting to jabs that were neither safe nor effective, which means useless at best, because that's without contemplating the harms done by the jabs, but that created and sustained a climate of fear that earned billions in profits for those on the inside in the know. 86% of the results from those tests were wrong. My good friend and GB News colleague Bev Turner reported the number this week. It should be on front pages and leading news bulletins around the world, but it's not, and it won't be. Every day in this country, people are arrested, cautioned, questioned, thousands of them convicted and jailed, reputations and ability to earn destroyed forever for posts on social media. People have had longer sentences for social media posts than those who take part in the gang rape of children. Not a single conspirator in the so-called COVID debacle who profited from PCR or plastic aprons or face masks, let alone the jabs, not a single person who pushed the lies about safe and effective, about the need for more testing, about the need for harder and longer lockdowns, not a single person who took part, profited, or just joined in the chorus has faced any consequences whatever, far from consequences. Many of those got better and bigger jobs and salaries, or honours from the Queen. Not a single politician or doctor or scientist who pushed the narrative that ruined or ended lives in countless ways has accepted responsibility for wrongdoing, far less face deserved, as I say it, jail time, and yet pose for a photo firing a shotgun at clay pigeons in Florida, and you can expect the British police at your door, and arrest and charges. This is the country we live in. This is the country that has conducted a so-called inquiry into the so-called COVID debacle and found, yes, remind me what they found. Oh yes, that found that what we should have done was lock down faster, longer and harder. Far, far, far from finding fault in what was done to people, all of that ruination of lives. The so-called inquiry headline finding was that next time we have to expect what happened before, but more of it and worse. Bev Turner was reporting the findings of a German study that has shown beyond reasonable doubt what some of us have been saying for years. The news, the PCR tests were a nonsense. It's not news to me or to Bev Turner. She and I and others have said as much until we are blue in the face. The likes of Bev and I and the rest of the scorned and scarred that spent the past 4 or 5 years asking questions about what was happening during the years they labelled a pandemic have known what needed to be known about the PCR tests since their inventor, American biochemist Kary Mullis, who died in suspicious circumstances back in 2019, just before the ruinous debacle began to unfold, said his PCR tests were the wrong bit of kit to use to track any sort of infection. Apart from anything else, he pointed out they could be misused for nefarious purposes, that their function could be amplified, as it were turned up to the point where material from the thing they taught us to call COVID could be detected in a banana. The thing they taught us to call COVID was indeed found in bananas, like he said it could be, and in all manner of locations besides. People like Bev and I and notorious others asked questions about PCR tests years ago, pointed out that face masks were worse than useless, raised the alarm about the harms caused to children and everyone else by lockdowns, questioned the safe and effective propaganda, the don't kill granny propaganda, warned of destruction of businesses locally and worldwide, all of it. We were right about all of it. And yet, we remain unforgiven. No good deed goes unpunished, right enough. On the other hand, those faces, celebs, big names, so-called serious journalists, politicians, all of them that pushed the harms are still there, exactly where they were. Many of them now successfully pretending, I might add, that even though they might have been wrong, they were still right to be wrong at the time. It's an utter farce. The guilty prospered, and that's a fact. As another friend of mine, American stand-up and podcaster Jimmy Dore, puts it, I forgave my friends for being wrong, but they will never forgive me for being right. Ain't that the truth? I say the thing they called the COVID pandemic was a scam from start to finish, premeditated and rolled out with malice aforethought, specifically to take control of the mass of the population while ensuring the greatest transfer of wealth from poor to rich in all of recorded history. I trusted the baddies for a few weeks. As it turns out, I'd been trusting the baddies my whole life. But I realised soon enough that we were being scammed. The price paid for saying so was high. Funny story. Back in 2021, I was travelling by plane from Edinburgh to London to do my GB News shows every Saturday night. Flights from Heathrow were unforgettable, and not in a good way. I wouldn't wear a mask. I would go through the terminal being glared at by those with their face nappies. Then I'd enter the plane to be reminded by the masked cabin crew that I wasn't wearing a mask. Then I'd turn into the cabin and see every seat filled with a nappy wearer. I'd find my seat. Often someone in a face nappy on one side of me or the other would press the button and ask to be moved away from me. That was my travel reality for weeks on end. I learned things about people then that I'll never forget. It was surreal. I knew the face nappy wearers were victims of a brainwashing scam. If they'd known that not only was I not wearing a face nappy, but that I hadn't taken a jab, I honestly think the mob might have got together and thrown me off the plane.
Before I became a dad,
Thrown me off the plane. Fast forward to now, and so much is revealed. Our government blew tens of billions of pounds on those PCR tests alone. They used the banana effect of misusing those tests to terrify people into jabs we know now were neither safe nor effective and that ended or ruined lives to boot. We know some made fortunes from all of it. We know we were lied to. An official inquiry has found no one guilty of anything. Bev Turner endured as much ridicule and vindictive censorship as anyone. Now she's reporting on how 86% of the results from the PCR tests were wrong. When I checked today, the video of her reporting of the fact on YouTube had 17,000 views. This is where we are. It should have had 1.7 billion views, but it turns out the real effect of all the brainwashing and fear porn and lies has worked a treat. The message that it's all behind us, all in the past, move on. They were only doing their best. That baited hook has been swallowed deep and holds fast. Too many of those who were fooled and did their best to fool others cannot bear to contemplate reality to this day, to look at themselves in the mirror. People who took the jabs and paid the price, who saw business destroyed, who couldn't attend funerals, whose elderly loved ones died shut away in care homes with their systems flooded with midazolam. Millions who know deep down what happened would rather see the guilty walk free, watch them prepare to do the next thing. And so here we are. The truth of what happened from 2019 onwards The truth of what was done is all out there. The guilty and the complicit can stand beside the evidence of all that wrongdoing and know that no harm whatever will come to them. I, for one, cannot wait to see what they pull next.
Migrants are being encouraged to complain